and I can join.
Okay. Well, welcome to the Career Doctors. This is where we share conversations to cure your work life. I'm Sonia Miller with my co-host Andrea Horvath, and we're very excited to have you here. So this series is perfect for you if you are unhappy with your work life and you don't believe that it could be any different. Or perhaps you'd like to transition in your career, whether it's within the same industry or a different industry, but you really don't know where to begin. Maybe you're very aware that you've been making sacrifices for a very long time, hoping that it would pay off, and you're still waiting and starting to maybe lose hope. And maybe you've been settling. You know that you've been settling for less, and no matter what you try, you just can't seem to get beyond that certain limit. So the Career Doctors is here to help with that. And we are just so glad to have you here, whether you join us live or we'll be catching the replay. We'd love it if you just said hello, let us know where you're calling in from, and DM us or send us comments. It all depends on where you watch this on YouTube or otherwise. Let us know how we can be of assistance. We are here to help. Also share any questions, any aha moments as we go through this episode, because today is going to be a really interesting, fun, and we believe illuminating topic. So today's episode is joy, the secret to career breakthroughs. So Andrea and I, as always, we talk about this for a few weeks as we warm up to the topic that's revealing itself to us. And so what we really wanted to offer are some key ideas here about how joy really is the secret to your career breakthroughs, and possibly some ideas that are new to you, or take some things that you already know to the next level. So this is perfect for you. This particular episode is perfect for you if you feel like you are stuck behind a glass ceiling or an upper limit and you're looking for that crack where you can just sort of push through for that breakthrough. Maybe you've been working really long, really hard, working hard for a very long time, and you don't know what it's going to take for that breakthrough to happen. Maybe you don't even know what the breakthrough is. You just know that something's got to change. So one of the things that we really want to talk about with this idea of joy being the secret to these career breakthroughs is that we want to shine the light on the distinctions between mindset and heart space. And many people in certainly the corporate environment or more traditional professional environments, we've heard about mindset, the power of mindset. And there's truth to that. But there's this whole other aspect, which is heart space. And it is infinitely more powerful when you understand how this is so. So we're going to talk about how feelings in general and joy specifically, feelings are actually very magnetic. Okay, when we talk about mindset, we're talking about how your consciousness creates your reality, but your consciousness is so much more than your mind. So we're going to be talking about that. And then joy specifically in that heart space is the secret ingredient that I think of as the beyond factor. It's what takes you beyond where you currently are. And you don't have to do it. You just align with it. So this is not woo-woo. And that's another thing we really want to talk about today is this is based on science. So we're going to be shining the light on how this is legitimate, science-based in its principles, and then how you can apply it into your life. So with that, I invite you to really start to connect with a question for yourself so you can really experience relevance around this conversation today. And so that is to just take a moment and ask yourself, if you could have one career breakthrough today, what would it be? What would be that breakthrough? Because we often feel that we want something to shift, but we're like, what's that one breakthrough, that thing that would really represent the next level? And again, put it in the comments. We will circle back and check in wherever you're watching this, but we'd love to know what that is for you. And then again, post your questions. So if you don't know me, my name is Sonia Miller, and I'm an empowerment coach and energy healing practitioner for accomplished women who feel that they're meant for more, but they are still striving to connect with the purpose, passion, and prosperity that's been eluding them. And I'm really passionate about how to make that possible without wasting time or working harder. So one of my favorite ways to really open up those possibilities is through a program that I developed called the Receive Now program. And the Receive Now program really shines the light on how many of us as products of our environment have come to believe that in order to receive what we want, we have to go out and get it and operate much like the hunter. However, there's a difference between getting and receiving is its own skill. And when we learn the skills of receiving, we start to tap into the wisdom of either the gatherer who knows where the abundance is and just helps themselves to it, or the tree that is an eternal being, a human being versus a human doing, and receives all day long without lifting a finger. So that is the program that is my heart and soul, that has produced amazing breakthroughs and results. And the thing that I'm working on right now that I'm really excited about is I'm about to launch the Surpass Your Limits School. So announcements will be forthcoming, but this is where my whole body of work goes to the next level in my career breakthroughs. So I am here to serve. And Andrea, how about you introduce yourself today?
Oh, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, Sonia. That was awesome. And thank you guys for being here. Sorry for the glitch this morning. We're flying by the seat of the pants and we're getting there with technology sometimes. So if you haven't met me, my name is Andrea Horvath and I am a career transition coach. And I help badass women figure out their soul aligned career or business. And I help them make that transition. And I tell you, this year feels like there's so much going on. I'm sure you find that too, Sonia. Like people are just like chomping at the bit to make changes. And so I find that right now I'm in a space of creating a lot of different things to really support people. So I've got actually a free masterclass. Anybody wants to join that, I've got a free masterclass in 2 weeks. It's the 3 secrets to building a soul thriving business. I see so many, well, people really, but I mean, I deal with women and work with women who have these wonderful, beautiful ideas, but and they maybe start a business, or sometimes they don't even want to start a business because they're scared. They don't know if they have all the pieces or not. And what I've discovered through not only making my own career transition, because I used to be in corporate, I used to be a CPA, is that there's certain pieces that you have to have locked into place. Like, and if you don't, you can put all the energy, the blood, sweat, and tears into it, the hours, the time, and you just won't make traction. I mean, it's a lot of what you talk about, Sonia. Like, we've been taught in so many ways. There's just like one way of doing things, and it's really this just go, do, right? Yet there's this whole other world out there that is such a foundational piece and needs to be a foundational piece. And that's where we really can start to create and do beautiful things in this world and build, right? So I've got a free masterclass and I'm launching a new program tomorrow, which which literally just came to me yesterday. So a lot of stuff going on. So this is really an exciting time. But anyways, back to scheduled programming. So today's topic is so important. I almost feel like in so many ways this could be a whole series, but and to be honest, I mean, I believe that everything we share, we really feel compelled to share. That's how Sonia and I operate. We go like, what do people need to really hear? And this one here is I'm so passionate about, because what we're doing is not working. And joy, I mean, you think about it, joy is something I think we take for granted a little bit, like that we're going to have joy, or we wait for something outside of us to happen for us to feel joy. And that's just not the way it actually works. And so what Sonia mentioned at the beginning, her and I both, and we've chatted about this, her and I both have spent, I mean, myself certainly, hundreds of hours, and I'm sure you're the same, because you're nodding your head, hundreds of hours studying what we're talking about. And there is so much science behind everything we're talking about. This isn't woo-woo. And, for me, I'm a very linear brained person, less so than I used to be. I used to be really linear brained. So I studied all this because I needed to understand it from an intellectual and logical level. And so if you're somebody who's watching this and it's going, okay, so this does sound a little woo-woo to me, and you want some science, I know her and I will both encourage you, find the science, do the reading, because when you hear it, the studies that have been done, you will be blown away. Like, and the science they're actually research they're doing now, it's more and more each year. So it's like as more and more time goes on, we have more and more science that says, we are not just these meat suits. It's not just about going and doing and all these things, right? So we wanted to offer a couple of names. Sonia and I aren't scientists. And, I learned everything I learned because I wanted to change my life. And so for me, and again, Sonia and I talked about this, it's about, okay, what's the science? What is it all about? But then taking it and actually using it, practicing it, bringing it into our everyday lives. So that's what both her and I have done is we've gone and gone, okay, these are wonderful principles, but let's try them out. And so this is what we want to also offer in this before we dive into what this is all about. If you are, first of all, needing more science to understand this for your intellectual brain to go, oh, I get this. We have a couple of names, which I'll share right now. So the one person that stands out for me, and to be honest, a lot of this I learned through courses and through teachers, like hiring people. So I actually haven't done a lot of reading on this, and there was a number of years ago, I kept hearing Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I went and bought his book. And I read his book. I picked up his book and I started to read it, and I was blown away. Erica, actually, would you mind just muting yourself? That would be awesome. Thank you. 1 second here. So I picked up his book and I started to read it, and I realized this is everything I've learned. Like, this is so much of what I have learned in all the teaching I've done. So I didn't end up reading his book. However, he has done tons of podcasts, and that is a science man. So Sonia and I aren't the science people. However, all the science is out there. So Sonia, do you want to share who's influenced you?
Yes, just really quickly, and again, I've hundreds, maybe thousands of hours. I mean, this has really been a lifetime journey of study. But for me, a great book is The Field by Lynn McTaggart that talks about the 0 point field and really what consciousness is. The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot, who cites all of these quantum physicists. And Erica, thanks for sharing Gaia TV. I actually have a subscription. So Gaia TV is great. It's got so much that's beyond the kind of the traditional mainstream sorts of ideas. And Joe Dispenza has an entire series there, which is really a great way to get introduced to it. So yeah, the science is out there. And I will say, just to add to what you were saying, Andrea, like I've often joked about how I am my father's daughter. My father was a genius. He got a scholarship to MIT, and he was the dominant parent in my house, in my life in many ways, while my mom was, very present in other ways. But I was trained, like you, to be very logical and to be analytical. And I had this intuitive side that was true for who I was. But it took a long time to trust my intuition because I had to kind of filter through this, I won't call it cynical, but certainly kind of skeptical, optimistically skeptical perspective on this woo-woo stuff. And now I'm like a total woo-woo girl, but it's backed in science, which is why I'm so passionate about it. So yes, please find the science if you need to open up to some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important to mention because I think, you and I have been doing this so long, we kind of forget.
Yeah.
Right. We've learned to trust it. However,
Right.
there was a point where, and I'm the same as you, I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Because
does this stuff really work? I don't know. But nothing else is working, so I might as well try this other thing.
And there's something very beautiful of when you get to that point where and that's where I got to the point of, well, nothing I'm doing is working, so there must be something else. So we just wanted to really put that out there if you're that person who's sitting here going, yeah, like this just sounds kind of weird and crazy. Because you know what? It is weird and crazy. It is. When you start to actually utilize and implement it into your life, it is weird and crazy. And cool stuff happens that you cannot explain.
Yeah.
The logical linear mind was just, you can't fathom it. So I wanted to circle back to what Sonia said, it's that 80%. Sonia, you say something so beautifully all the time. You say, your presence is more powerful than your productivity. And that really speaks to the 80%. So we hear that 80% rule. So if you're wanting to make changes in your life, if you're wanting to do something different, you got to focus 80% on mindset, which I believe personally is incomplete. As we've talked about, it's not, we've been taught in our world, it's all about our brain. And that's not true. Our brains are powerful. And yes, it's important, but it is not the complete and entire equation. It's not the entire situation. It is about our brain, but it's also about our heart. And so I'm going to share a little bit about joy from, first of all, from a brain science perspective. And then I'm also going to go into the actual heart. Like I think Sonia talked about it at the very beginning, a little bit about tapping into our heart. And then Sonia's going to talk about consciousness. So we've got a few different angles. And this is the beautiful thing. There's neuroscience, there's quantum physics, there's energetics, there's all kinds of different modalities and angles to look at all of this and to say joy is the gateway, because it really is the gateway. They all come to the same conclusion. You can come at this from so many different angles and so many different ways, whichever resonates with you. And within each of the ways of looking at this, there are different tools you can use. However, it always leads back. How you feel in this now moment is creating your future reality. Full stop. Full stop. However, because it sounds simple doesn't mean it's always is easy to actually implement and actually do. And this is also part of why you want to do this live today is we intellectualize so much in our world. So we can hear somebody say, well, joy is important, but the gold is when you actually start to implement it, like to actually do it. We are in a world that has no lack of knowledge. It really is, okay, I want you to leave here today, the little bit of knowledge going, okay, these ladies have tried it. They know a little bit what they're talking about, right? But then to take it and go, okay, I'm actually going to try this. That's what I really want for you. So I'm going to talk about neuroscience a little bit. And again, I don't have all the brain science terms. I honestly don't really care about them because it's not relevant for me. There are amazing, brilliant scientists like Dr. Joe Dispenza, like I said, who can explain all the brain science and use all the proper terms. So I encourage you to look it up. But so many people right now are in a state of survival mode. I was going to say trauma. We've experienced a trauma 4 years ago, right? And it's really continued in many ways. But what happens to the brain when we go into a state of trauma and survival mode is we are in fear. So when you're in fear, you're not in joy, right? We can sort of appreciate that, right? So what happens is when you're in fear, you are looking for danger. Okay. You are constantly looking outside for the saber-toothed tiger to attack you. But in our world, it could be a nasty boss coming at you. It could be some threatening something on the news. It could be you losing your job. It could be interest rates going up even higher. I mean, there are so many things out there. But when we are in survival mode, we are in fear and we are constantly looking for danger. And what happens when we do that is we literally, it's like we shrink down. Our brain stops looking for creative solutions. It stops looking for opportunities, because that's what, if you want a career breakthrough, right? You want to be scanning and looking for opportunities. However, when you are in survival mode, you're not scanning for opportunities for growth and expansion and breakthroughs. What you're actually doing is scanning for danger. And so you could spend, hours upon hours, say you're somebody who's looking for a job. You could spend hours looking for a job. And if you're in that state of being and you're in fear, all you're going to be doing is finding things that aren't going to work for you, that don't feel good, that are limited, because that's what your brain, and this, it actually creates neural pathways in your brain that scans for this. So moving into a state of joy, and we're going to give a couple tips in here on how to do that. What it does is it stops your brain literally from scanning for danger. And so if you start to think about, well, what do I want? What would give me joy? And actually visualizing, because that's what your brain's really powerful at, is visualizing opportunities and go, okay, what would it feel like to have the most ideal breakthrough? And like, you could even close your eyes and just stop and think about it. Think about it, and then start to feel into it. And as we've talked about in a little bit of our content, we were talking about this live here today. You have to get into the state of what you want now, right? So it's really about tapping into, well, if I had that career breakthrough, how would I feel? And start to visualize yourself. Visualize yourself, say, walking into an office where you are being warmly received. Visualize your boss asking you to come into their office and offering you a raise or offering you a promotion, and actually feel in that now moment, like sit there and feel what it would feel like, because your brain doesn't know the difference between what you're visualizing and what's actually happening. So what you're actually doing is training your brain to start looking for these scenarios. But you can't just think about, oh, wouldn't it be cool? It really is about tapping into the feeling, because that is what triggers your brain to change. Because again, if you stay in fear, right, you're still scanning for danger, even though you might be intellectualizing, I want change and I want something different. It really is about aligning your feelings with what you want and moving towards that. Now, does that make sense? Anybody have any question before I move on a little bit from there? Or Sonia, do you want to add something to that?
I think that's great. I mean, I've got some things that I'm thinking about how it connects the dots with consciousness, but I think that's perfect. Yeah.
So it's just knowing if you are in a state of survival right now, and there's lots of ways you can start to come out of survival, but it really is just, first of all, recognizing if you're in survival, it's going to be really hard to access those things, but visualizing and feeling into what you want absolutely is the gateway. The second thing I really wanted to talk about today, and Sonia, and you talked about at the beginning, is about your heart. The science on the heart actually is incredible, because your heart literally is like a magnet. However, when you are in fear and you are in lack and you are in scarcity and you are feeling scared, what happens is your heart closes down. And when your heart closes down, the energy around it starts to close down as well. They've got research that says that when your heart is open and when it's expansive and when you're in joy and when you're in happiness, your energy field goes, I think it's 3 meters outside of you. Okay, think about that. That's how much your field of energy, and what that is doing is attracting in opportunities, fun scenarios, cool. This is the magic. Cool synchronicities. However, you actually need to be in your heart and be open and be joyful. And that's actually what draws in these particular situations. Again, when you are in fear, your heart closed down. I mean, think about your posture. Like when you're feeling down, like, don't we all kind of slouch over? I mean, if you think about it, and what you're really doing is you're protecting your heart, right? You're closing in to protect your heart. When you're in joy, if you think about it, like you're a lot more open to being open. One of the things I used to recognize, I don't do yoga right now, but I've done yoga in the past in my life, and I'd always know how my life was going, because when you do the tree pose and you're like this and you're open, if I was able to do it really easily, I knew that I was in a really good state. Like I knew my life was going, like I was open to possibilities. If this felt uncomfortable, it was always a sign to me that I needed to do some internal work and work on my joy, because that meant I wasn't really open. Because our body is always giving us signs and signals to how open we are. And so if you go into a state of joy, like we talked about, if you want to actually attract and magnetize situations in, if you can find a place of joy, your heart opens up, literally opens up, and you start to send the signal out and you start to magnetize people, situations, and opportunities. And I always say, this is when stuff lands in your inbox, and it's happened. I'm sure, Son, you've got millions of examples yourself. Somebody just pops into your inbox and says, hey, I want to hire you. Hey, can you be in my podcast? Can you, like, those are like the world we live in, right? Opportunities literally land. And it's not because we went chasing. It is, we could be sitting at home being completely expansive and open and trusting and joyful, and they will literally pop into our inbox. I wanted to give an example today to really, because I was thinking about playing with it, because I always think it's important, like we've talked about here, when you are learning these things, I think it's really important to just have fun with it. Try it out. Just test it. See if it really works. And I was thinking I used to do this. So I wanted to share this story. And I think we've all had this situation where we're not in a good mood. Like we're feeling cranky, we're feeling ass, things are not going great in our life, and we go out. Say you're just going to the grocery store, okay? You're in a bad mood. Get in your car, you hop into traffic, and tons of traffic. And then you get cut off. And then you hit every red light. And then you get to the grocery store, and they don't actually even have everything you need. And then you go to pay, and you're like stuck in a lineup forever behind some obnoxious person who's driving you nuts. And then you get to the till, and the clerk is super obnoxious and is a trainee and doesn't know what he or she is doing. And everything, pardon my French, but just kind of goes to shit, you know? And it's easy to look and say, like, wow, this world really sucks. However, we are so powerful as beings that we actually attracted all those situations in based on our frequency, right? Where our heart was at. Because what I know, I've also done the opposite, where I've gone out in public and my heart is full of joy. I am feeling grateful for life. I am feeling expansive, just full of joy. Hop in my car, go into traffic. Oh, hit every green light. Oh, look, somebody let me in here. You hop, like for me, we go to a coffee shop, parking lot, parking spot right out front. Go into the coffee shop. Oh, there's no line. Oh, somebody walks up to me and says, hey, like, and starts chatting with me or throws me a compliment or something. And then, oh, look, my favorite table's available. And all these situations really are magnetized in because of my state, because I'm in a place of joy. And it's easy to forget that we actually have that much power. But I would encourage you, like, if you want to give it a run, and I would encourage you, give it a dry run, get into a place of joy and go out into the world and see what happens. I remember during COVID, like 2020, 21, when the world was really in a lot of fear, my daughters and I spent a lot of time, like everyone did, I'm sure, with their families. And we would go out together a lot of that time. And I can't tell you how many times people walked up to us and just like literally strangers, and it got to be kind of a running joke with us, would walk up to us and say, you guys are just lovely. Like there's just something about you. And I'm not kidding. It happened regularly all the time. And I know this was our frequency. This was because they could feel our hearts and our resonance because we were just all really open and joyful. So this stuff is real. This is real life stuff. And if you look back on your life, you may see patterns. And before I hand it over to you, Sonia, one other thing I want to just mention is we all love being around joyful people, right? And so I think to myself a lot of times, If you're looking for a career breakthrough, you want someone to notice you, you want a raise, you want whatever it is, forget the science. Like, you could even throw the science out the window. People want to be around joyful people, right? If you're at work and you are emanating joy, it gets noticed. We think sometimes it doesn't, but the opposite is true too, right? People notice, and people want to be around joyful people, right? So that was just my other little totally non-science, but just behavioral, just human instinct, human behavior.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So right. Well, I just love all of that. And, there's so much, I wish I could make a list of all the like, ooh, I wanted to, connect those dots. But, uh, Andrea and I, we see ourselves as kind of like the bridge between the data and the application, because both of us are here to help our clients, help our students literally manifest real world results in their careers, right? And so the truth is, while we know a lot of science because we've studied it, right? The application is just what you said. It's like you can read a million books, but if you don't show up for the practices, if you don't actually take this into your life and apply it and implement it, nothing's going to change. But the truth is that we're already using this principle. And what you said, you took the words out of my brain right when I was thinking this. It's like we all have the experience of having somebody walk into a room, or us walking into a room, and they just have a black cloud over their head. They are not in their joy. And immediately we go, ugh, and we're like, I'm going to walk over. It's like, and what happens? We go away. It's repelling, right? And then we see people who are laughing or giggling or a bright light or joyful or confident, because there's a lot of studies that have been done about how confidence is just sexy and appealing and attractive, and we just want to go towards them. So just this difference between energy away, which is repellent, and energy towards, we experience that all the time. This is about actually harnessing the underlying energetic principles in a conscious way for your career. So after we talk a little bit more, just to like really prove our point, like just have you really say, okay, I'll try this if you're a little bit skeptical, and if not, it's taking you to the next level. We're actually going to give you some tips about how to actually connect with joy in some quick and easy ways, whether you just haven't been harnessing it to its full potential, or you are in trauma, in fear, in survival, or just in a bad mood, because there are things that we can practice very intentionally to shift states. And all it requires is awareness and willingness, willingness, and the decision that you're going to show up for this, because this is you reclaiming your power if you want this career breakthrough. And it's the fastest way. It's the fastest way. So for me as a coach, I think a lot of people don't know, like I used to position myself as a law of attraction expert. I wrote a book on the law of attraction. It was a bestseller. It was translated into 5 languages. And this book, I wrote the book that I wished I had had on my journey of understanding manifestation, because I'd see all of these books that had all of these practices, vision boards and visualization and affirmations and just act as if and fake until you make it, all of these practices. But my father's daughter logic mind said, yeah, but why does that work? Another one is the attitude of gratitude. But why does this work? Don't just tell me to do something. I need to understand why and how this works. So in addition to all that I studied and all that I practiced, I wouldn't quit until I understood what I call the consciousness under the hood, because everyone was saying that our consciousness, our inner world creates a reality. How does this work? And so this is the piece I'd love to connect the dots about what's really happening in consciousness when joy is creating breakthroughs. Okay, so here's a couple principles. First of all, the sum total of everything that's out there around mindset and heart space is that your consciousness creates your reality. But your consciousness, as we've already touched on, is way more than your thoughts. It's way more than the words you say, the affirmations, okay? It's way more than even visualizing, if you are somebody who can visualize, because some people can't, okay? What's really happening is that, and this is the easiest way I can describe it in the manifestation process. When you focus on the essence, essence is feelings, essence is energy, essence is that ethereal thing. When you focus on the essence, the energy, the form will come in the physical world. The energetic equivalent of the form. Now, what makes the feeling equal to the form? Okay, it's the feeling you think you'll feel when you manifest that thing. Right? So if you are not happy at work and you would like a breakthrough, ask yourself, and Andrew's already touched on this, what feeling do you think you'll feel when you have that breakthrough? Okay. What most of us do is we focus on the form, hoping that we'll get the feeling. If I get the house, I'll feel secure. If I get the money, I'll feel free. I'll feel powerful. I'll feel abundant. I'll feel financial security. If I get the relationship, I'll feel the love and the connection. So for any goal we ever have, it's always for one reason and one reason only. We are chasing a feeling. We are chasing a feeling, but here's where we have it backwards. You don't get the feeling from the form, okay? If you want to manifest consciously, if you want to be really powerful, you focus on the feeling first, which Andrea was talking about. You focus on the essence first, you embody that, and then the form will come. The life will rise up to meet you, that match comes in, okay? So that is the piece that's so important to understand, is your consciousness creates your reality, but it's not just what you're focusing on with your mind. It's when you focus on the essence, what's the feeling that I think that thing will give me? And ask yourself, how can I start to connect with that now? Embody that, feel that. Then, like you said, those opportunities, those synchronicities, those, I just heard on the radio this perfect thing, that's exactly what I wanted to learn more about. Like, they just start to come towards you because, and if you look at it from a frequency perspective, joy, love, truth, peace, it's all very high vibrational. So everything that would make you feel joy, freedom, love, and peace, that's a match for that for you, comes in, right? If you're down in fear and not enoughness and scarcity, then what you experience and perceive in the physical world are matches that basically prove that to be so. It's just an equal match, right? So just a quick recap. Your consciousness creates your reality. Focus on the essence and the form will come. Every goal you've ever had is because you're chasing a feeling, okay? And when you're connected to joy, right, that feeling, the essence first, magnetically draws to you the physical world equivalent, breakthroughs and beyond. The world rises up to meet you. There was one more thing that you said, Andrea, that I just wanted to just give it a little bit more light, because you were talking about how that heart, that when you're in your heart space, that field expands, and the science has been done. I think it's important to not only have they measured the energy, but what they've measured, what's been identified, is that we are literally these beings of electromagnetic, we emit electromagnetic fields. Our hearts emit electromagnetic, right? So we are literally magnets when we know how to, we're kind of like so there's magnets that are just polarized metal, but electromagnetic is that they are amplified through the energy of electricity. And we are electric beings. I mean, it's like the electricity, it's all through the science. Again, we are more the implementation and application experts from the science. I don't have the sciencey words either. But it's amazing when you start to dive into that. So that's what I want to say. I don't know if you want to say anything more to that, Andrea, but for me, it's about understanding that your consciousness is what's creating that, and energy, the energy of the emotions and the feelings, are a huge part of your consciousness. not just your thoughts.
You know, and it's so interesting because I remember when I first learned what you were talking about, Sonia. And I mean, how I was raised was I was just kind of bobbing along. When good things happened in my life, I felt good. And when awful things happened in my life, I felt awful. I mean, that is the first 30 years of my life.
Mhm.
And it really is a very reactionary way of living. But that's what I was taught. And I think that's how most of us were taught. There might have been a few of us that had, the advantage of understanding this at a very young age. And thankfully, it's changing now. But that really is a lot of the conditioning that we're having to deprogram from, is we constantly look to the outside world to decide how we will feel. And when you recognize, and this is so powerful, when you recognize you get to choose how you feel in every now moment, your life will change like you've never seen it before. But that's how powerful. We are not subject to what's around us. You can be, I'm going to always love the analogy of the eye of the storm, because there can be chaos. I mean, there is chaos in this world right now. We can see there's chaos everywhere, right? If you're outwardly focused all the time, there is chaos. And yes, if you allowed yourself to feel what was being fed to you, I think most of us would be in a state of deep depression. And I know there are people who are in that state, right? And
Yeah.
understandable, until you learn, like you said, it's completely backwards. Like it's not just kind of sort of backwards. It's not
No,
just
completely.
like we've been taught the exact opposite of the truth of how this actually works, with, again, all the science and data to back it up. And I mean, for me, it is my real life experience that really lands at home for me. Like when I get to see it and try, and that's why I say, like we keep saying, you just try this, play with it, have fun with it. But we really do get to choose how we feel. And in my opinion, this is one of the roads to complete mastery in a lifetime, is when you can manage your emotions and really be the driver, because it's really that's what's really driving your entire existence. That is pure mastery. And you talked about the application, and I think what's also really, I think, important to mention is this does take time. Like you'll hear people, oh, I tried this for a bit. Well, let's think about this. You've been doing it the other way for 50 years or 40 years.
Mhm.
You can't expect to all of a sudden learn how to manage your emotions and get into joy in 5 minutes if you've never really done it before.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean we give up.
Right.
Really, it's about that decision going, do I really want to change my life? Do I really want, because you want, like you said, you want the career breakthrough because you have an expectation of how that is going to make you feel. It's the only reason we do anything is because we believe it will make us feel differently. If you really want to feel differently, you can make that choice today and stick with it. When I meditate, it doesn't always go well. Like it doesn't. Like there's nobody, I don't think, on this earth who can say, oh yeah, every time I get on my pillow, I feel zen, I feel happy, I feel joy. No. But sometimes it takes longer.
Mhm.
When Sonia, when you and I were talking about this live, I shared what happened to me last week, because the way I live my life now is the most important thing in every day is how I feel. And I woke up one day last week and I had a bad sleep. I was awake at 4 and I was not a happy woman. And I made the decision. I was like, I have to shift. I have to come into joy before I start my day, because I know I could spend a whole day working and get nowhere. And this is the problem, is we've been taught also, especially in the corporate world, the hours matter.
Hmm.
And that alone can really, really stop your progress, because the hours do not matter. I will not spend hours doing work if I am not in joy and happiness and in my heart. I won't. I could spend 5 hours doing work and get zero results from it. I could do 1 hour of work in complete joy and have all these things and opportunities land in my lap. But last week I woke up and I stopped. I said, I'm not doing anything until I've changed. And it took me a while because I was kind of cranky, but fully I was cranky. And then I started my day a little bit later, and I put a post out, and one of my clients wrote the most beautiful testimonial as a comment, like to the point where I was actually moved to tears. I was just like, unexpected, just on a post on, like something I did on social media, and I had an awareness that that would not have happened had I woken up and continued with my day and sharing my content, in kind of a cranky mood. And then later on, I had posted something actually to a different social media. It was about my masterclass. And I had a lady who I've connected with a little bit. She messaged me and she said, "Can I share this with my group? Because I think people need to, this is amazing. And I think people need to go to this." I'm like literally landing in my lap.
Mhm.
But this takes practice. But knowing this is actually possible is so key.
Yeah.
And before we give the tips, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm actually like chomping at the bit because you really just gave a perfect foundation to go a little bit deeper with this concept of your presence is more powerful than your productivity. And what I see with my clients, and I was one of them, I was my first client because I practiced this and then I'd see how it worked. But this thing about the hours matter, one of the reasons that has happened for me, has happened for you, and happens for my clients is that the minute you start to prioritize your presence, which simply stated is instead of producing productive being more important those hours, you prioritize stopping the doing, shifting to being, that first of all, acknowledging that you're a human being, not a human doing. And then presence is about showing up as you are, which requires space. I did a whole program. It's a 30-day program, 30-day challenge, many micro teachings. And all we focus on is making space for you. This over-functioning productivity brainwash is the thing. It's the thinking, in order to get what I want, I have to work harder. No, you don't. You actually have to
No.
stop working harder, do exactly what you did, Andrea, which is, all right, I'm working too hard. It's not working. Hard work is not working. Let me shift to being. Let me show up for myself. And yes, there are some skills to learn because we've been so malnourished in the power of being that we have to relearn the most natural thing in the world, which is to honor our feelings, to simply be, I actually pulled one of my own oracle cards, which is receive now by sitting. All right. All things come not to those who wait, all things come to those who sit. Because when you're sitting and being, you start receiving what's right here. And then the flow of receiving happens again. So 100% to everything you said. It's like the overdoing has to stop. And once the overdoing stops, right, and we start to get into being mode, I have literally seen clients. I mean, they've gotten raises, they've gotten promotions, they've gotten job offers literally out of the blue. It just shows up because they prioritize their heart space. They've learned how to nurture instead of fixing themselves. And that's one thing I really wanted to also illuminate is these mindset principles are good to a point, but when we don't understand them, we will use them to fix ourselves as if our feelings are a problem. Your feelings are not a problem. They're your greatest asset. We just don't know how to nurture them. And that's the piece where it can take a little bit of time to reconnect with that. But that's when the world is your oyster. I mean, so much abundance and flow becomes available. But it is a malnourished skill set. So that, I don't know if there's more you want to say about that, but that might be a good segue into, so how do we connect with our joy? Anything else you want to say before we
So
jump into that?
the one thing I would love to add, and this happened because I was working with somebody, and this is kind of what brought this up. When you talk about being, what I think is also important to add to that is it's about being, but what I've seen people try to do is I'm going to stop doing because that's what I'm supposed to. I'm too tired. I actually can't go on anymore. Like I'm exhausted. And they stop, but then they beat themselves up for being. And this is the part about the joy that really needs to lock in, because you can't just stop and go, I'm just going to be, but then be totally stressed like, because I'm not doing. Right. And this
Right.
is where these joy tools come in, because we still have to do, right? Like we still have to do something. However, it is in our culture, in our society, it's overemphasized, right? But when you're in that being, it's not beating yourself up. And like you said, not trying to fix yourself or make yourself wrong or feel guilty or feel bad that you're not doing enough. And it is a process. So it's not just, it is like, it's learning how to be and be okay with it,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is a
Absolutely.
journey. It takes time. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
happen overnight.
But the good news is that, and one of the things I love to say is, the most powerful people I know have learned how to harmonize their human beingness and their human doingness. Their
Yes.
human, their being skills and their doing skills, right? They've learned how to harmonize them, and they've learned how to access the correct skills at will as needed for the situation in hand. Those are the most empowered people. And when doing isn't working, all right, when in doubt, be first. That's the proper order of operations. But most of us are completely malnourished in being, so we just do. And then because that's produced results, we do even more. It works up to a point, right? So it's really about bringing in the balance and then learning how to dance with the two.
Yeah. And I actually want to reemphasize what you just said, because when you told me that, well, it was probably a couple months ago, I've never forgotten that. When in doubt, be. If you're confused whether I should be doing more, doing this, it's be. I really want to say that, because it's that simple. It actually is that simple.
Yeah.
So yeah, go. Do you want to start with what your tips are, or how to get into that joy?
Sure, yeah. So one of my favorite simple, it's very simple, not always easy, but the simplest thing when I need to be first, I need to check in with my feelings, I want to connect with my joy, I'm in a bad mood. Whatever it is that triggers your like, all right, I need to connect with joy, is practice walk away power. Because if you're not in joy, chances are good your awareness is fixated on something that doesn't give you joy, right? And what happens a lot for us overworkers and overfunctioners is that we're trying to make something happen and working and figuring out. We're either in figure out mode or doing. Now, the reason it can be not easy, even though it's a simple concept, is because our consciousness is magnetic, right? Whatever we're feeling in the moment can have this gravitational pull. So it's kind of like the doing sucks us in, and we're like, we become really compulsive and obsessive sometimes. And our minds know I'm not in my joy, but we're literally in a trance.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to recognize that you're in a trance, snap out of it, whatever you got to do, literally just stand up, take a breath, just change your physical energy. And if you can, walk away, go for a walk, go splash some water in your face, turn on the music, dance, just do something, anything that changes your energy. And ideally, something that feels good. So for me, I am a walker. I love to walk. I go outside, and it's really hard in Oregon because it rains so much, but I've got my rain gear, I've got my earbuds, change the energy. So practice walkaway power, because that immediately, there's so much is happening in that moment. First of all, you are unplugging from what doesn't feel like joy. Okay. You're also embodying the energy of I matter. Your energy just went from focusing out towards the task, energy out, away from you to stop. And now energy is focused on you. I want to feel better. I want to feel joy. You're literally changing the polarity of energy, life force moving towards you rather than away from you. And then joy is the amplifier. It raises your frequency. So anything that feels better, just do it. But if you can break the trance, it's the hardest, but the most powerful thing you can do. So that's my first one that I wanted to throw out there.
That is one that I've done a lot. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
it can feel so uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like I remember when I was in corporate, and I mean, I was a CPA, so we're talking deadlines all the time and hours and hours of work, of productivity. The thought of taking a break, even though my body was sore, I was struggling mentally. It would almost sometimes take every ounce of my being to do what you just did, what you said to
Yeah.
do. But it's the like in those moments, you are 100% spot on when you say you are in a trance. And when you
Yep.
see that, and it is like, this is not a comfortable thing. And you can go for a walk and you can be like, oh my God, that work. Like, and that can start in your head. It's just like, you got to talk yourself down from that. It's like,
Yeah, walk it off.
yeah,
Walk it off. Yeah.
it's like, it's fine. Is anybody in mortal danger? No.
Right.
Like you know what I mean? Like we really have to talk ourselves down from this, and it takes work and it takes practice, but that's the only way through that, especially when you've had, for so many of us, decades of this other way of living.
That's the
And
survival energy you were talking about. Like
totally.
you're literally in this other part of your brain and you're scanning for danger.
Yeah.
You're literally in that space.
Yeah. And you have to literally just have enough awareness to go, I need to extract myself, like literally pull myself out of it. It's not going to
Mhm.
just happen. Nobody's going to give you an invitation. And guess what? There may be nobody else around you doing it. And that's the thing too. I mean, I know when I was in corporate, the emails, nobody was taking breaks.
Mm.
And it's like you can feel like a real rebel and it can feel very uncomfortable. But most people are really unhappy in this world. So we want to follow most people. So I love that, Sonia. And I still do that. If I get two in my head, it is 100% take a break, walk away, walk away. And it's usually the last thing I want to do in that moment. The very last thing I want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to offer one that is, if you're not in that state of like that doing where you're in that trance, but this is one where you're just feeling generally lack. Maybe you've tried to make some changes in your life, in your career, and you're not getting there, and you're just feeling, just generally ick. And it's really easy to go into lack in this world. I mean, most of certainly North America is in scarcity consciousness, right? There's not enough of anything. There's not enough money, there's not enough jobs, there's not enough opportunities, not enough of everything, right? So it's really easy if you tap into the outside world. However, I have been doing this for a very long time, and it is one of the most powerful shifts, and that is gratitude. I actually started doing this with my kids when they were little, when they were getting really cranky. And it is literally I would get my journal, and I do this still now. If I'm in go into lack, I get my journal and I will write out numbers. Like I go write out to 1 to 200, even 1 to 300. I've done 1 to 400, and I write all the numbers out. And I will sit at my notepad and I will write out every single thing that I am grateful for. And we are talking about the air that I breathe. We are talking about the fact that I can walk, the fact that I have eyes that can see. I list all my friends, all the people I love. I thankful for my phone that keeps me connected to this world. I will go through everything, like the smell of coffee in the morning. And you do that for any period of time, your whole frequency, your heart opens. I mean, gratitude is one of the most magnetic states of being, frequencies, feelings, whatever you want to call it, that can shift you. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it takes writing out 200. Sometimes it's 25 and I'm good. You just got to stick with it. And if it's every day, twice a day, keep doing it. It will change. You will start to feel differently. So gratitude for sure.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So, yes, yes, yes to all the above. And I have to add again, connecting the dots about why this works, why gratitude is so powerful. Because we all have the experience. We know that when we start to focus on our blessings and what we have, we start to feel better. Okay. But the reason that gratitude also, besides connecting you to your joy, manifests a lot of abundance is because remember, your consciousness creates your reality. So when you are in gratitude, you're in the consciousness that is having and right now. So when you say, thank you for the air that I breathe, you're saying, I have air right now. When you're saying, thank you for my friends, I have friendship, I have love and connection right now. When we are not in gratitude, when we are in lack, we're saying, not here, not now. And if we want something, it's in the distance, in the future, we are separate from it. Havingness is oneness consciousness. So not only does gratitude connect you to joy, right? And not only do you feel better, which everybody wants, right? It's actually the most powerful consciousness that you can nurture to manifest abundance because it brings you into I have right here, right now. So you start receiving the physical equivalent of having what you want right here, right now. It's so powerful.
It's honestly, Sonia, like I feel like I'm getting emotional now because this gratitude has gotten me, this is years ago now. This is many, many years ago when I was having all sorts of problems with their kid's dad and my family and just total chaos. Sitting and listening
Yep.
got me through. Like to put it really bluntly, sitting and doing that at times actually got me through.
Yeah.
This is not something to be trivial of gratitude. Like, I think when we hear something that's so simple, we dismiss it. It's too simple. Does it really work? I don't
Yeah.
want to really, I want the big stuff. I want to be able to go out and like there's this magic trick. Gratitude is magic. Like that is the magic. And it sounds so simple, but let me tell you, and like I've lived through this, and this is more powerful if you even just do this from this live today. If you do that and start a daily gratitude practice where you're actually feeling it, like going, I am truly grateful. And like I put my hands on my heart, really connects you to your body and get you out of here too, right? All kinds of signs on that. What you touch and that you're going to actually connect with your heart, that can literally change your world.
Yeah.
Just that one thing.
I would love to add another one because I'm thinking about the people who are like, joy just feels like too much of a leap for me from where I'm struggling, I'm stressed, and I believe Andrea and I both know what that's like. It's too much of a leap. So one of my favorite practices is called suspending judgment. Okay. Sometimes we just can't even imagine, like, I know I'm in the pooper and I need to connect with joy or gratitude. I'm just not there. I'm in a bad mood. I'm cranky. Things are not going my way. So suspending judgment is the equivalent of just breaking the trance and being open and receptive to new possibilities, but not feeling like you have to make yourself hop over too big of a leap into joy. And so judgment, I'm not going to go into a whole thing about judgment, but for time's sake, but basically we know when we're judging something is bad. Our brain we're assigning meaning. Let me go back. Every event is neutral until you assign it meaning. But when we start assigning it meaning and saying this thing that's happening is bad, right? Then we're really far from joy. So to practice noticing, okay, this thing is happening. I'm not in joy. You stop and then you say to yourself, this isn't good. This isn't bad. It simply is. I remain open to the good that's right here, right now. That can bring so much relief because if you start to think you have to fix your feelings and get over in joy, you're just going to create. That's a lot of what happens with mindset work. We try to use our mind to change our feelings. The proper use of mind is not to think, but to practice awareness. I'm aware that I'm not in joy. I'm aware that I'm focusing on this. This isn't good. This isn't bad. It simply is. I remain open to the good that's right here, right now. And then do what's in front of you. Even if you have to say that a few times, that will open the door to the next best feeling thoughts that can lead to maybe gratitude or joy as you're more in alignment, closer in alignment to moving in that direction.
Yeah, that's great. And what I love what you said is that, yeah, use your mind for awareness. We can't think our way to joy.
No,
This goes. You can't. You're asking your brain to do something that your heart actually needs to be involved in.
beautifully
And
said.
it's not about dismissing our mind. It's about using it for us and stop using it against us, because that's what we're doing. So many people are doing. They're taking the brilliance of their brain and their mind and they're using it against themselves. So
So good.
it's an awareness tool, right?
Yeah.
And it's needed.
Yeah.
So hopefully we've given some tips, and we'd love to hear you guys trying them. I mean, this, like we've said, even if you just grab one of these ones that we did, so much of what I do with my clients, and I know you do with yours as well, it's like, it's never just one thing, right? It's just, but it takes learning one at a time. And then you move up a little bit, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna try something new. So like, we also don't want to throw too much, and like, don't try it all at once. Just if you picked up one right now, and you will, as you start to feel better, you're like, oh, I'm open to new possibilities. I'm opening to some new tools and whatnot. And it is a progression. But starting and committing, that in itself it's really the gateway, right? It's really the gateway. So thank you so much for joining. And again, we apologize for the issue with technology this morning, but the recording, it has been recorded. I am going to upload this to YouTube. I'll do that today once I figure out my technology issues. That was on my end this morning. And our next live is set for April 3rd. And we have, oh, thank you so much, Helen. Thank you. What we decided to do is to leave it open. Any ideas of what you'd love for a next live, let us know. We're going to wait and see kind of what pops up. But the next one is scheduled for April 3rd. So of course, on LinkedIn, I'll be posting. And I'm also curious, how did you guys feel about Zoom? Was it better, worse, different? Like,
I was having the same curiosity because you and I have talked about maybe shifting over. So
we have talked about, because it's just a little more intimate, a little bit more closed. We're curious to know. I mean, today did not go the way we had planned it to.
yeah, let us know, for those of you who are here, and thank you for being here.
Yeah.
You have a preference? Would you like Zoom over LinkedIn? Because we have kind of explored that possibility.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, no, we really have. So this might have been divine intervention.
To me, I know, right? I was thinking the same thing.
Sonia said to me this morning, she's like, should we just reschedule it? I said, no, we're going to Zoom. Like, it was just like my instinct was like, no, we're going to Zoom.
Yeah.
I really wanted to do this live today, but it might just be the pathway to Zoom. So this is awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And again, any thoughts on what you'd love us to talk about, or if it's like a topic today that you would like, hey, you know what, you guys, I'd love it if you guys would like dive into that more. Like maybe that's where it is too. Like you can see, we could have kept talking, I think, for another hour.
Oh, I know. I had to like, shut up, Sonia.
I know. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.